We just saw Big Eyes, and on this show, I take my friends, we go see a movie, we review it in the car, and then we have a discussion. The review part is spoiler free, so if you're on the fence or trying to decide if this is a movie for you, you can watch that part and get recommendations without spoiling the plot. And the discussion section is for people that either don't care about spoilers or have already seen it and just want to know what we think. You can watch that part as well and hear the whole picture, spoilers and all. So, Big Eyes is about a painter who she runs away from a marriage, ends up with Christoph Waltz's character, and he essentially takes credit for her paintings. And she eventually, he becomes very famous, the paintings become very famous, and he becomes more and more unreasonable, and she eventually decides to fight back and try and get the credit back for the paintings. This is a really different film for Tim Burton in that it's a very normal movie. You don't have, things aren't directed out of control, out of proportion. Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz aren't normally people that are in his movies, but none of that's a bad thing. They're very good, and I really like this movie. I really like the way that he put it together and made it work. I know that there's been some people that have been sort of down on Christoph Waltz in this movie because of how sort of cartoonish he is and how big and weird he is, but I kind of watched it thinking about, what would it be like if he were a more muted, toned down personality. And I don't think the movie would work as well because she's so, you need to believe that she has enough of a personality that she has sort of an artist's sensibility about things, and that she's willing to walk away from a bad situation, but that there's also this guy that is 20 times as persuasive as she is, 20 times as intense as she is. And, not just that, it's the 1950s, but also that, this guy's really great when he wants to be, and he's really over the top when he wants to be, but he's also very scary, and so we have to believe that about him. We have to believe that he can go anywhere. And I think they pull that off really well. I didn't know much about the artist ahead of time. Obviously, I've seen, the Big Eyes. That's a pretty famous series and all of that. But I didn't know much about this story. And it's a lot of biopics coming out lately, and this one was good. I enjoyed it. Amy Adams is great. I always tend to like her stuff. I like the way she does things. She plays a very her voice is really different in this movie. Like a lot of this, like her choices as far as how she acts and things like that, are things that you've seen her do before. It's kind of her her sort of shy, yielding sort of personality, but she's got this sort of drawl to her, and it makes her sound like a different person.
She's from Tennessee.
Yeah, and I thought that all really worked. And it really is there's other people that have parts in the movie, and they're supporting parts, and they're fine. But it's really the Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz show, and they both do a really great job. So I would recommend it if it looks like it. If you might enjoy it at all, if it looked anything like something you might be into, I would check it out. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. I think it's, if you like stories that are about human nature and human behavior, I think, like you said, it did a really good job of, first of all, the story did a good job of portraying it, and then the actors did a good job of really making that realistic. And I think what you were saying about how he had to be such a big personality, that the character Margaret really spoke to that during the trial. He kind of questioned her in front of the jury, like, well, how could that possibly happen? And she said, you what you have is a personality. You have a huge personality and you're a salesman and you can sell anything.
Yeah.
And that's how this happened, is that your personality and your salesmanship were enough to carry this, and I got swept away in it.
Yeah.
And I think it was very compelling. And then he did kind of get sort of crazy and
Well, he revealed himself, and
Yeah.
I think that's the important distinction, right? Is
Right.
that he's not a character that gets more and more insane. He doesn't become tainted by fame. He's not like someone who suddenly develops an ego out of nowhere and just becomes more and more of a monster or anything like that. He's very carefully constructed his persona in such a way to get what he wants.
Right. Well, and I think that's, again, true to human nature, is that initially it all seems normal and it seems reasonable because you just don't believe that's what they are planning.
Sure, but I
And
mean,
so-
but that's a choice. Like, they could have just decided to portray the character as he was a really sweet, nice guy, and then
Right.
something changed. and
Right,
he
right.
lost it, or
Yeah.
he got really jealous of her and decided to,
Yeah, the other
a
thing I
complete
thought
jerk about
they,
it.
like, I think they could have really sort of made him out to be more of a villain than they did.
Yeah.
I don't think, she has her daughter from a previous marriage, and while obviously he isn't really terribly attached to the daughter, I mean, there certainly could have been scenes of him just being completely inappropriate or abusive or
Yeah.
and they didn't cross those lines.
Yeah, no, it was very much he just had just the force of his personality was enough to dominate her personality. He didn't have to get physically violent
Yeah.
or he did. I mean, he does threaten her and stuff like that, but it's not.
Right.
It's not anything. It's just enough to get her to do what he wants. So anyway, that's the review section. I don't know how much we have for spoilers, but
That we haven't already spoiled.
yeah, I mean, everything works out all right in the end.
Nobody dies.
Nobody dies. Well, I mean,
Well,
in real life, the character,
right.
the guy died eventually, but it wasn't like he,
It was just,
as a result of what happened in the movie, he just I
Got
got
old?
the impression that he just got older and probably didn't have a lot of money and all that. So, it'd be interesting to see if we get more movies like this from Tim Burton, because he was a producer on it, he was a director on it, and it's strange because it's really well directed, but you couldn't put your finger on it and say that's a Tim Burton movie.
no.
It's really got its own style, its own aesthetic. So, which I enjoy. The Beetlejuices and the not so much some of the later like the Johnny Depp as the vampire stuff.
It's just more subtle. It's like he has gotten to the point where he doesn't have to beat you over the head with his
Right.
style. That it's
Yeah.
much more restrained, but still powerful. I mean,
Yeah,
I think still.
and Danny Elfman did the soundtrack,
Yeah.
which I honestly, there were a couple of times that I noticed the soundtrack and it was kind of annoying. Like, it was, this piano was sort of like playing over them talking
didn't
that I had a
notice
hard
that
time with. But that also is kind of an uncharacteristic score for him. Like, he made a score for a 1950s art movie instead of, a Tim Burton movie, that kind of style. So anyway, don't know what else was to say about it, but it was good. I enjoyed it. So if that sounds good to you, please do check it out. If you like the way we do these reviews, please like it and subscribe. Check out all the written and video reviews at dalemaxfield.com, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.